What's good, Joe? It's your man, Bigga P, and I just want to share my thoughts on the boxing cards from last night. Um, we had um, we had two. There was the PBC card on Fox, and then the HBO triple header that started at 10 o'clock. Uh, First, I want to talk about the Chris Eubank or the Abraham fight. Uh, it was a good fight because that was the fight that was going to determine the eighth and the final spot in the World Boxing Super Series tournament that's going on for 168. I mean, it's reminiscent of the whole Super Six tournament from some years back. And I was like, Arthur Abraham would think was in that one too. So I was thinking to myself, do I really want to see an older Arthur Abraham, very not in his prime anymore, in this tournament? At least on the 168 side, that's probably needs a little bit more firepower, probably youthful firepower. The answer was no. I don't want to see him in there. And but I was wondering, would Chris Eubank be able to avoid Abraham's type of bombs? Because Abraham is probably one of the tightest guards in boxing today. In terms of, it's very hard to hurt him because he shows up so much. But he's also kind of negative too because he shows up so much. He does not. Well, until he comes up late, and afterwards he'll start throwing those bombs. But Eubank did his thing last night. I mean, couldn't put him away, but he clearly had everything: speed, reflexes, everything over him. Abraham had nothing for him. I thought it was a complete wash. And Abraham. I mean, there were times where I think Abraham was eating like 4 or 5 uppercuts in a row on the ropes and stuff like that. And I think like only the guy being as tough as he is, so I kept him on his feet. But it was a clear 12-0 wash. And I'm actually happy that Eubank Jr. is in the tournament because I was like, they need some firepower, and I would love to see, because there's some potentials in there. I mean, Gross is the only champion in that tournament for 168 in there, but there's definitely a chance that he could probably pick up a belt from Gross. So yeah, I mean, that was a wonderful fight to watch. I wish that the U.S. aired it, whether it was Showtime or Wealth TV. That was instead of watching. Although I did find a nice, pretty clear stream on it, which was wonderful. So I can't complain all that much. It was damn near HD. But kudos for Eubanks for winning that fight and getting that eighth and final spot. So now I can look forward to that tournament when it starts up in September. So yeah, the PBC on Fox card. On paper, was not overly happy with the card or really excited about the card. Mostly because first thing it was 10 rounders, which is why you give them 10 rounders. But that might be just a TV type of decision. Whew. Excuse me, it's a little early in the morning. um, it's a little too 10 round fights. I'm like, why are we getting 3 10 round fights for? And and then the main event was Robert Guerrero versus Omar Figueroa, and was not in a welterweight, which I was also not happy to see. But before the fight, we had two on the undercard. The first one would be, Arthur Sabocka versus Koznowski, or whatever how to pronounce his name. Sabocka was coming back from the first time, or is it the first or second time, after he got laid out by Deontay Wilder. And the fight he was pretty much on uneven stands with, but Wilder's power, one hand, one punch power is just off the charts. So this fight, Sabocka had actually slimmed down a lot. I mean, when he was walking around like in his mid 220s and stuff, and he looked pretty much in shape. But I don't know if it's just age or whatever that caught up to him. But he didn't look good in the ring. He looked pretty sloppy. Koznowski, I think, was like 15 pounds heavier, and pretty much was hitting him at will. It was just the volume was incredible, and then landing long right hands and almost at will. And then the other thing that too Zabocco did, it would led to his downfall, is when he got rocked, he dropped his hands and walked backwards. And then each shot, I don't know if it's just macho or it's just a disconnect because he got hit too hard. But the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, he didn't wait in to knock him out. Second time he did it, he did that and got blasted into oblivion, into the ropes. And then Same thing. Like he dropped his hands again, and then the ref was like, "Okay, I can't allow you to take any more punishment." So it was a good win. I mean, the guy Koznowski, or how you pronounce the name, and forgive me if I butchered the name. Um, at least put himself on that list of contenders. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him challenge for Wilder's title sometime in the near future. As for Sabota, I was like I said, it was kind of just. I mean, consider the guy. I mean, he has. I mean, granted, he does have his flaws. I mean, but he's always been competitive in all the fights that I've actually seen him in. The Jennings fight, the Wilder fight. I mean, he's not. He's not a bad fighter, but it was just I don't know what it was. Just seeing that type of performance from him, it's just like it's either is he old or is age catching up to him? I don't know. What would possess a heavyweight to drop his hands when he gets tagged and then walk backwards to get tagged some more? You know, but yeah. I mean, I don't think he's through, but I think something didn't go right in that training camp for this fight for him. So guess we'll see how it goes. See how he comes back from that. Second fight was Marcus Brown versus Shawnee Monahan. Again, this is not really a fight that I was looking forward to. I'm not really high on Brown, and Monahan is Monahan. But they were in Monahan's backyard, and it was just the type of fight that he was waiting for. And Brown probably looked the most impressive he's actually since I've actually seen him watch him fight. I mean, he literally just took him apart. And the fact that the fight was not called in the first round is mind-boggling to me. But Marcus Brown pretty much showed it. Like he didn't let him off the hook. He came out the second round and just bashed him. Like it was a straight bully. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better type of performance, especially from Brown, who's still catching that flack from that other performance from last year, where he got that dubious decision. And yeah, I mean Brown did his thing, and more power to him. I mean, that's the type of fight. And then he was calling out Superman. I don't know about all that, but who knows? I mean, Superman's level of competition in the last 3 years has not been the greatest. So I wouldn't be surprised if he says, and plus they're in the same camp. Hey, let's give Brown a shot. Who knows? Excuse me. It is early for me. um, So yeah, that was a good performance by Brown. That was the first time I was even remotely impressed by him. So let's see if he can keep that momentum going. Monahan, I just don't know what went wrong. It's just he. I mean, I guess he just didn't have. He just got caught, and that was just it. Um, I think they mentioned that that was the first Southie that he fought, and kind of looked like it. But yeah, I know Monahan's been doing his thing in that boxing scene. So I mean, guess we'll have to go back to the drawing board. And then the main event, as I mentioned before, Robert Guerrero versus Omar Figueroa. Now this fight in itself, both fighters vex me for various reasons. Omar Figueroa is a guy that I've always said. I mean, probably needs to box more to extend his type of career. I mean, dude was a terror at 135. He's mostly known for that ridiculous war with Arakawa from 2013. One of the damnedest fights you'll ever see, for sure. And pretty much after that fight, which an incredible amount of damage was done, especially to his hands. Figueroa never ever got back to that type of form. I mean, I think he had one title defense at 135, and then after that, which I think was a close call. And then he had had another fight after that. Then after that, went to 140. He got a gift against Ricky Burns, and then there was that DeMarco fight, which was for all intents and purposes, it was a super welterweight fight. And then Omar had been falling apart pretty much. I know he said it was injuries, desire, all types of stuff. He'd been out of the ring, blown up to 190 pounds. And this is a guy that is like, hey, I mean, this guy probably could actually be a superstar, but he's just in his own way. So seeing him now, and I think they said he was up to like 190, which was kind of crazy. And I saw that. I saw some of his footage, so it's not entirely not believable. So now seeing him fight at 147, although I think he says he's gonna go down to 140. I was like, he doesn't belong at 147 anywhere near it. And then there's Robert Guerrero, who had lost his last two fights. Robert Guerrero is somebody who gets overrated in the sense since he's gone to welterweight. Now, I remember watching Robert Guerrero, of course, as a featherweight, super feather, lightweight. The guy was a lot slicker than he used to be. He was a slick fighter, and the plotter that you see at welterweight is a far cry from what he used to be. It showed up in bits and pieces in some fights, but for all intents and purposes, Guerrero pretty much got put on, on the scene with years ago with that fight with Andre Berto, a fight which inexplicably that Berto just got beaten up and dropped. It's the only fighter that Guerrero has actually dropped at welterweight since he's got to the division. The only fighter he's actually dropped or hurt significantly enough. You got those fights, and then I think that fight probably put a lot of mileage. That fight put some mileage on him, and then of course he goes on to face Floyd, and he gets his head boxed off, and then the actual fight that I honestly believe was the beginning of the end, the Kamagai fight, which was supposed to be a soft touch, and then I saw. Usually Guerrero's a tough guy. But I saw Guerrero took some punishment in that fight, way too much punishment. And although I thought he won that fight clearly, I was like, he let pretty much a journeyman in that division just pretty much like strafe him with all types of crazy shots, and I'm like, it's like, and you said you can't let people do that. And then afterwards he goes on he fights Thurman, he gets beaten up. Thurman pretty much knocks his punch resistance meter down some more, knocks him down, and then he fights Aaron Martinez, and then Martinez pretty much all test points knocks him out, and he looks terrible in this fight, and loses, and he wins a gift decision. And then he goes on to face Danny Garcia in a surprisingly more competitive fight than he should have been, for the welterweight title, which he loses. And then afterwards, last summer, he faces David Pereira, who pretty much boxed his ears off, and then Guerrero lost a split decision. Although I thought he won that fight. Although I thought Peralta won that fight clear. So here we are right now, 33, 34 years old, Robert Guerrero, in another main event on Fox of all channels. I don't know what the thing is on PBC, why they keep featuring Guerrero in these main events. It's just literally every main event I've seen him on, besides on this main event. I don't understand it. But this fight probably should be the true end of it. Now, the first round showed Ghost doing his bully, actually boxing Omar up a little bit. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, Ghost looked pretty good in the first round, and then Omar looked terrible. I thought Omar, obviously, just looking at him, thought 140 is where he needs to be. But then in the second round, the third round, it was just a straight annihilation. Omar snapped out of it and delivered a thorough beating. Dropped him 5 times. Ghost is a tough guy. I'm not gonna, for all his faults at welterweight, Ghost is a tough guy. But like I said, the type of fights that he's had, punishing fights at that, I think really did something to his punch resistance. And granted, Omar is a big puncher, but I didn't expect, someone who's really a blown up 135 pounder to do what he did. Guerrero just got beat down, like 5 knockdowns. Guerrero just didn't have it. He was just, you could tell when boxers just don't have it anymore, and that was Guerrero. He took all types of punishment. It was just sick. And then the fight was mercifully stopped in the 3rd round after going down for the 5th time. For his sake, I really hope Omar does go down to 140 at least, if he's going to be, and try to be competitive there. Because I don't think, with his type of style, I just don't see the type of fighters that, that hang around 147. They are naturally bigger fighters. I just don't see him having a lot of success there now. As for Guerrero, I think Guerrero's done. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I've said Guerrero was done since the Martinez fight. I think I said on one of my old videos. I said he was done after that because you don't let a guy like him who's known for taking some punches that gets KO'd by literally KO'd by a guy who has only 4 career KOs in like 25, 26 fights. You got to call that. You got to call that a career after that. But yeah, there's no attempt to say that he's done. And if Guerrero continues, he's probably looking at some very serious injuries. Um, so yeah, it was sad in a way just to see Guerrero go out like that. I mean, just too many years, too many fights, too many wars, too many unnecessary punishment. And he's expired. Um, so yeah, I mean, like I said, Rob Guerrero should, for the sake of his life, his health, should probably call it a career after this. And Omar, for the sake of his career and his health, should probably go down some more to 140. So yeah, overall the card, it ended early, and I was worried that there would be an overlap with into the HBO card, which was I think I had like 10 minutes. I was able to get my corn on the cob, get my lobster, and get that started before the fight started, before the fight card started. So HBO, the first fight was Joe Smith Jr. versus Sullivan Barrera. Now Joe Smith, of course, is riding the Funfara and the B-Hop KOs, and then Barrera, I think has won 2 straight since he lost to Andre Ward. The fight. Now, it looked like in the first round that Joe Smith was about to cause one of his famous touchdowns when he actually knocked Barrera down with a high shot. It was one of those shots that, like, okay, this kid really has some power. He knocked him down and had him all types of like trouble. I was like, damn, okay, Joe Smith is probably on his way now. is probably about to throw the bank at this kid. But then after that, Barrera just he settled down, he warmed up, and just boxed his head off. Joe Smith couldn't fight off his back foot. He was just, Barrera. He waited. Well, it wasn't like Barrera didn't give him a shot to actually do anything. There were times where Joe was catching him with some left hooks or some right hand, or especially the right hand every now and then. Because Joe Smith has some legit power. But for the most time, it didn't seem like Joe Smith actually knew how to fight him other than trying to catch him with a shot, trying to catch him. He didn't press the action, didn't really go to the body all that much, didn't throw sure the jab. And then, like I said, when he was fighting off his back fight, he was just really ineffective. So it just became a complete wash. And then I was under the impression that this was going to be a 12-round fight. So imagine my surprise. First, Jack Reese always talked about, hey, Joe, this isn't how you usually fight, which is kind of suspect because, referees are supposed to be impartial. You're not supposed to be, saying shit like that in the corner. Especially, that's the cornerman's job. That's the cornerman's job that says, hey, Joe, you're not fighting the way you're supposed to. So yeah, that was kind of odd. And then even more odd was in the 10th round, he's having the fight touch the gloves of him. Like, it's the last round. It's not the last round. You do it in the 12th. But then apparently the promoters changed the length of the fight midway through the fight for whatever reason. I don't know why. Is it just? Joe could have probably benefited from at least getting 2 more rounds to actually try to turn around or try to catch the guy. But it was all for nothing. Joe lost that round too in my card, and then he was like I said, it was a complete wash, except it was the first fight. So that fight was somewhat disappointing because I thought maybe Smith had something more. But in this particular case with Joe Smith, because he works as a laborer when he's not boxing. So my thing with him is he can improve. And I honestly think it's just because he's labor. He's probably not training full time, and he can improve from what he did. But I think honestly, he probably needs to do that in order for me to think he'd go further because he looked one dimensional, and I think he lost the fight just because he just didn't know how to fight the guy per se, and he probably didn't get the type of work that he probably should have gotten for someone like Barrera, who's from the Cuban School of Boxing. As for Barrera, hopefully he gets himself. Like I said, he'll get another shot at, as a top welterweight. I know they're saying that the winner of that fight would go on to face Kovalev, you know, sometime in December or whatever. So we'll see how that goes. The second fight was the U.S. debut of Jezreel Corrales versus Robinson Castellanos for Corrales' WBA belt. The first 130 fight on the card. This was probably the most interesting. This was the best fight of the night to me. It was Castellanos, of course, got put on after he KO'd Gamboa earlier this year, and and I've seen him fight before. I saw him fight Iskandar like last year at DC, and tough guy, and a tough customer. So I mean, Corrales, I knew was going to be in for a fight, and and honestly, it was a wonderful blend of styles. Corrales, with his wide leg stance, and then Castellanos with his pressure. I mean, I thought I was looking at an upset when the fourth round Corrales went down twice, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is no way, this is no good. And then this fight continued, and then eventually Corrales returned one of the knockdowns. I think it was in the seventh round, and the scrap was just getting good. By the 10th round, when the second headbutt, gave him a cut underneath the eye, brought an end to that fight. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is a draw right there. Castellanos did enough that he got himself a draw. And one of the scores was a draw. And then one of them was 1-4 Corrales, and the other one I think was like 4. Or maybe even more than that. Somewhere around. I didn't agree with the last score, that's for sure. But it was a great fight. And I think they should also run that back. And hopefully they do. You could definitely put that on another Boxing After Dark card for like later this fall or whatever. But Corrales did, I think, made it good enough pressure and made enough noise that I think you could probably put the other 130 champions on notice. Castellanos, of course, is now probably a bona fide super featherweight contender. So hopefully we'll see him again in the near future, get himself an opportunity. And then the main event was Miura-Berchelt versus Takashi Miura. Now, this was the fight on paper that I was like, okay, this is going to be a fight of the year type of fight because, Berchelt won his title earlier this year by beating down Francisco Vargas. And then Miura was on that same card over there fighting a fight of the year type candidate against Mickey Roman. That fight was just unbelievably brutal, even for my taste. And I thought, okay, we're gonna get ourselves a war. Berchelt, I give him credit, did not even attempt to try to draw himself in that type of war. Knocked out Miura in the first round, and then pretty much boxed his head off. Like Miura, for the most part, didn't really adjust all that well. I mean, he started slow, and then afterwards he tried spamming that left hand, which he connected. I don't think he connected enough to really bother Berchelt, who just pretty much kept on moving, circle away from his left hand. However, Miura was putting him under some pressure. I mean, there was some. I mean, the type of pressure that he was. And I know Berchelt was starting to wear down just a little bit from that pressure and was getting caught more and more as the hype came on, but not enough to let's say keep him more stationary so Miura can do his type of his type of fighting, which is like going up to the head, going up to the body with that left hand. But Berchelt, I mean, he showed a dimension, and just like I said, he didn't even attempt. I mean, whereas in the Vargas fight, he was a lot more offensive, and that's pretty much because I think he probably sensed that Vargas was a little bit more spent. I think he had a little bit more power from Miura in his left hand, so pretty much he kept away from the left hand, just boxed him up, and yeah, it was a clear victory. So Berchelt is definitely probably top of the class at 130 right now. I mean, next to like the likes of Lomachenko and probably Corrales too. And, yeah, I mean it's. I mean, it was a good fight. It wasn't the fight of the year I was expecting. I was hoping it would be, but I can't argue with that type of performance at all. I mean, he got out there, he was fine, and he wasn't marked up. He wasn't like say, he didn't let Miura he didn't get into Miura's fight and just boxed him up. So I can't help but respect that. So now Miura, I don't know what his future is. I mean, honestly, because I honestly thought he would probably be shot, but I don't think he was shot. I just thought he was just simply outboxed. So I mean, he still, of course, remains a very dangerous guy in that division. I mean, I know he wanted to really regain that title that he once had, but I guess we will see in the future. I mean, HBO loves the guy, so I'm sure he's going to be brought back in some sort of fashion. Probably maybe later this year. So yeah. So those are my thoughts on those two cards. It's a good night of boxing. I was expecting a little bit more on some of the, particularly on the HBO side, but hey, sometimes it's boxing. You just know it's unexpected. I'll probably watch another card that I don't think is anything that great, and I'm trying to be the greatest thing in the world. Bradley Provodnikov taught me that. But yeah, so until next time, peace.